So good afternoon. My name is Attila Toth. I am glad you joined the meeting. I hope other colleagues will join soon or will watch the video. We cannot wait any longer. The subject of the meeting is to review what is the current situation in telework, uh, EU-wide, or in some countries they call it home office. What is the European survey, and what we can do? What is this opportunity for us as a knowledge workers? I would define like this. So this is the first formation meeting for the creation of EU-wide ecosystem on teleworking. So this I define the end objective of the meeting. And of course, formation is a very hard process. We start bottom up. I selected and invited you by person. This is not a public event. And I hope next week we have also a meeting, and we will, our group, our ecosystem will work and will grow and create values. This meeting anyway is hosted by the Home Office ecosystem Slovakia. So such a construction, such a consortium already exists. I will introduce later on this team. And also myself, I'm a coordinator of this ecosystem. So this is in the nutshell about the meeting. And let us proceed. I hope you receive the presentation so we can go quickly, and we don't need to go into the details because you have then time to analyze the presented content here. So the approach, what I propose here, to have 3 steps. The first step, we take a stock what is now on the market from the point of view of legislations. Anyway, legislators are very, very prudent, very intensively passing legislations. And also what is the trend in users, the other part of the business. And then based on this, we should identify the needs. What are the needs now? How we can accelerate this and safe and efficient implementation of telework support services. At the same time, meeting legislation criteria introduced by the government. So these are contradicting conditions. So, but this is the challenge for us. And then by identifying the needs, we propose some actions how to fulfill the need. Okay, so let us go to step 1. So we made at Slovak ecosystem some search with colleagues, but this is not a full search and full how to say it, review. Of course, you should take your review, but I picked up the most relevant activities. First of all, on the European policy level, the European Economic ECOSOC Committee, there was a debate in January. You can read it, that they are, like usual, the members of European Parliament are pro, and then again, and finally there are only suggestions which are even we don't see when they will happen. Sorry. What I want to emphasize here, that there was also a follow-up by end of the March. If you click on the blue link, you can see this outcome, but the main outcome is that they will propose a framework for legislation covering telework plus member states level legislation. So they should member state can extend in the light or in the line of the overall EU legislation, the specifics. And also they push telework and gender equality. This is already, no comment. So this is here, but I am not pessimist at all, because at least we see that the subject is hot in the house in Brussels. So I think only the participation, the stakeholders, if they are only discussing between them as politicians, or they are also supported by professionals, technical professionals. I will discuss it or point it out later on. Here is another study. It is a long study, 61 pages from the Publications Office of European Union from Luxembourg, 61 pages. Some of them you can find some interesting comparisons, but in the meantime, this is from 2020. In the meantime, this map is not so actual, I think, up to date, because, for example, in Slovakia, we know that we have even not the right to disconnect, but obligation to disconnect. So this should be a dark blue, and maybe in Hungary also. I don't know. Somebody from Hungary can comment on it, because we have, after slide 8, a break for questions. So this is this. And here is something I picked up, another study of European Union Joint Research Center study about the status before and after pandemic. But this is, before they say 2009, after is 2019. So this is a little bit old study, but we can see what was before the pandemic, what was the landscape by countries, and what is usually using and sometimes using, but I would not take it seriously, but a good historical review. And this is the best, the latest statistics, very interesting from Statista. It's showing, you could read it. So showing how often, what is the intensity of use of teleworking, or in some Central European countries, we call it home office. So we see that in UK, 46% of the respondents use it 5 or more days a week. And Germany is lagging, and Italy are on the same level. Some improvement is in Spain, but this is relative. So, and here, of course, I couldn't find some other member states, but this is also very, very good sign, because there are many studies showing that the volume of use of teleworking for the past year increased by 50% by European Parliament, some report, but also at least 40%. So the teleworking is, the policymakers are active, and a most ample example, more important example is the regular circular of Luxembourg Financial Supervisory Authority from 9 April. They issued a called recommendation governance. So this is not a compulsory, how to say it, law in some labor code or something, but really this is valid for each supervised entity. That means bank, insurance, and so on and so on. So the highlights, anyway, is very good document, very, very comprehensive. It seems that also was consulted by professionals. So please take the time and to read it. I highlighted in 5 points. So it contributes to the sound and prudent management, also organization. They also recommend, but recommending means this they will welcome how to organize. For example, in a bank, 24 hours every day must be somebody responsible for the help desk. And if something happens, of course, this manager has the right to call the teleworking worker immediately to the home or to the company premise or bank premises. So these are some interesting things. What is interesting? This regulation is not for pandemic. This is after pandemic. So this is for normal situation. So this is the good message for us that introducing of home office is not only the question of pandemic. So it will continue because it has clear economic advantages which are overwhelming the disadvantages as it's normal. So it creates a new industry, service industry, what we will speak shortly after. And for this is also, this regulation means when I return back to Luxembourg, then I will see less congestion on the highways, because so far all frontalier workers, this worker every morning coming and also then returning are making a big congestion problems. So this is also telework is also how to say it, the green economic problem. And for that we have projects already course for proposal, but I will not go ahead too quickly. We will discuss after on the slide 8, I think. Here is a typical country regulations, what we know in more detail, and even we have as our ecosystem, Slovakia Home Office ecosystem, we have already some solutions. And also, but first of all, let us see what are the highlights of this regulation. As I mentioned, this is fully compliant with the current EU policies, plus not only disconnect each hour, but this is a mandatory. So this is not an option. So this is a mandatory. And what are maybe something unusual, at least we did not find in any other country legislation, that you have to ensure online safety checks of home workplace required, whether you have enough big monitor, good workplace, and good enough space, and so on and so on. Important is that allowed fixed and free working hours, and also there is a possibility to use your own equipment, but at eligible cost, 80% if duly justified. That means that if you have a system, IT system, which will register the activity, real activity duration of your home office activities, then this cost depreciation utilities are eligible. But this is, there are also some unclear items. We have here Mrs. Nemchikova. She can explain if there are such questions, our economists in our ecosystem. So, full list of mandatory and optional telework activities are in my article, but you could read it on the LinkedIn, but we will show it in the next slide. What is, maybe I would like to emphasize that home office is not only for white collar workers, for administrative workers, but also one of our members, Novitech of ecosystem, they have remote assistance to company manufacturing personnel from home. So the technical engineer can advise the workers in case of failure of some lack of knowledge to the manufacturing personnel. Maybe Mr. Schotter is here. Hello, are you here?
Yes.
Yes, so you can also answer this question or how it works shortly, and then we will proceed then to the regulations of other countries. Here is now the time to provide some experience from your other countries, if any, or to place questions from the participants. So please go ahead. For example, to the last offer, Mr. Schotter, tell it in a nutshell. What is your application?
Okay.
Or for remote assistance?
What you have mentioned, we also deal with this COVID and home office situation and remote work. It is better to say that it is remote work, not only home office, because work can be done from anywhere now, and this is very important for us because employees in the field also need to have tools to make their work to be done. So our remote assistance works on the real time two-way video calls or audio calls. We can use smart glasses, or we can use any mobile device, and this can help to share information what is done in the field, and people wherever they are, at home or at office, they can assist each other and to help to deal with the situation. So they can provide materials, they can provide some leaflets or documents, or they can share information about what is done in the field and make a screenshot, and then they can highlight what should be done. So it's online cooperation. It doesn't matter what kind of position you are on or where you are. It can be done from wherever, and you can assist to your colleague. It doesn't matter how many of you are there, if it is one-to-one help or two-to-one, whatever. So this is from our point of view helpful tool to field workers or industrial partners to make it work in this let's say more sophisticated digital world.
Thank you. Thank you. More updates, please. So maybe I would be pleased to hear from our colleagues. Can we see the list? Maybe I will discover some of interesting profiles. For example, Albana, as you can see, maybe I will show you, but I jump a little bit ahead. This is the need, but we will do after. This needs change management. You know, here we will discuss, but here is change management to follow up legislation actions. So, and as I am aware, you are expert in change management crowdsourcing. So please, did you think about how this can be implemented, or your methods, know-how of your company implemented for this teleworking area, when even changes of any kind, not only for teleworking, are as normal?
I think my proposal is, because we have some next step, that we
Yes.
finish presentation and then we can have the discussion, because
yes, but I didn't want to keep you because this I expected. So So these are the questions.
Because I wanted to say that beside this teleworking or there is idea or we discuss something what is called a virtual clerk. Okay, that how to make more public administration more efficient, and the idea you are discussing here from the from new way of working could be completely changing the model how the public administration will approach people in the country or entrepreneurs. But okay, let's discuss this as this long term, but we need to start somewhere pilot.
Yes, yes. So in point one and step one, we finished with this. This was the survey as what legislations do and what the users do. And now, so what is the need? So I think we can agree there is two important needs: to ensure efficient and safe implementation of telework support services. That means efficient and safe. And the second, as I already outlined at the beginning, is meeting the legislation criteria. So these are two, as I thought, contradictory conditions. So, but how to enable to solve the solution of win-win solution of these two conditions. So I outline myself, my opinion, it is enables two group of enablers to give some templates depending on the importance of business, outsourced, and depending on country legislation, template, how to implement, how to operate. And the second, and guidelines for project implement, how to implement it. Because this is really multidisciplinary projects. You can read in my articles that this implementation needs combination of several professions, from starting with the lawyers, human resource specialists, accountant, activity-based costing specialists, business process developers, of course, software IT developers, and at the end, but last but not least, specialists, security specialists, workplace safety specialists. So this is an endless. So this is a complete and very complicated project anyway, for which I think small companies cannot or can hardly manage to implement. So for this, we need modular IT platforms and tools, of course, to implement the telework process templates, change management to follow legislation actions. And here was the question to Albano Brioni. What is the challenge? And also, it is more important, and we already mentioned it, that we have to contact, if we think already in a future ecosystem, policymakers should be in our, reach, or we have to reach them, have to explain to them that they should investigate the economic, technical, and social impact of any legislation before it is introduced. Whether it is what is the benefit and what is the cost of this legislation. But this is a general problem. And now, telework as a process, this is the main message what we should differentiate ourselves from the other telework crowd or initiatives in the past. Teleworking, which they consider teleworking as only a physical movement of from one place to other place. Here is telework we will consider as a process Here is normal is an example. I will enlarge it and typical if it is possible. Yes, can you read it now better? Maybe here. And okay, so there are 7 activity groups of this process. Group 1 to 6, these are really support activities to support safe and efficient teleworking and also meeting the legislation requirement. This example is meeting the Slovakia legislation requirements, and it starts for, you can read it, but for each activity it should be very good to have some IT application, not to invent the wheel, of course, not only this methodology and description of the process, what is behind each activity, but also support. For example, very important is that according Slovak law, the Slovak law, you have to make annex to the work employment contract for telework with the employee, and of course this can be changed. So it should be an online negotiation and approval process, because your amendment annex can be changed every month depending on the needs and of the company. And of course we can do the same or assess the same for each activity. Should be an IT support, but this should be interrelated and integrated to the central system. And number 7 is the outsourced process. So 1.6 is the teleworking process, the new process, and 7 is the outsourcing process of the company. So it is very in the nutshell, but you can read it, and we can go. Next week we have a meeting next Wednesday when we will show exact more details if it is needed. So that's all for the 2.1 and 2. So the new element, also new enabler, is to consider teleworking as a process and use process management principles and IT development principles as we use it for other business processes of the company. So this, and the third one, and this is the last slide. So here is the justification why is very useful to have EU-wide teleworking ecosystem. Similarly, what we have done, and we are growing in Slovakia now. We have 98. How many, Mr. Balázs? How many members we have just now?
At the present, we have 89 members of.
Okay. Okay. So, and this is a very, very valuable community of different professions, capable not only to learn from the others, from their past professions, past experience, but also work together to advise companies, the end users, to introduce. So, so this ecosystem is, first of all, should be facilitated now, not only on a member state level, but facilitate sharing the experience, knowledge on the EU level, and not to reveal the wheel and discover each member state separately and even sector separately. So this is the main reason. So to proposal to taking actions. and of course have to, because this is a long-term process, so have to finance this and have to elaborate and establishment. This is a long-term process. Therefore, we should reach or should join to join our members and their companies into a consortium, which will then address a Horizon Europe, the new framework project. There are also some calls, I have seen them, related to green economy. As I see, we are part of the green economy because we are saving commuting costs, energy, and so on and so on. But this is a little bit too far. First of all, we have to organize ourselves. We have to be visible, justify our presence, and therefore I am asking you, kindly requesting you to join the Telework LinkedIn group, where we can discuss. Everybody can update his opinion, his contribution, and of course, next week we have when we meet next Wednesday, then we can go a little bit further. For example, to invite further specialists, not only for meeting but for work, and maybe nominate country coordinators for our ecosystem. But this is a long-term process, and I need, of course, if you agree to the idea, I need your help and your active support. So that's all. Thank you very much for your attention for today. If there are some questions now, please go ahead.
I have a question, if I may. So this is Peter Sveda speaking. So how would you, what do you think should be the next step in terms of how to bring it alive, this entire initiative? I'll just give you an example. So on other initiatives which I kind of overlooked from a certain distance. So they created, I know, a capability maturity model for remote working. So every company could assess its operations against this model, and then you know, they would use this kind of this model, or this model would be used as a marketing tool for this initiative, and more people to come and join forces towards this initiative. So is there anything you
Very
have
good.
in mind?
Very good. This is very good approach. So please write a record to the group, teleworking group. Yes, and this is the just the method what we would like to go ahead to propose methodology, you know, and also not only capability, but this is also like a diagnosis. But people need, and mainly small companies, solution, because they are afraid. Here in Slovakia, work safety authority can come to the company anytime, and they call consultation, and they need three things. First thing, if they have online for telework, if they have online attendance method or application. Second, if workers or are working at home, what is the annex to the work? And the third, what is the internal regulation of the company, organization of the management? How they will behave, or how they are insured, and so on and so on. So people need, at least here, solution. But for big companies, for sure, this is a very good approach, what you have mentioned. Yes, to first of all, to check with the maturity model, and then you see what you should improve. Yes, because big companies, they are not on the green lane, that they have nothing. Yes, in this field. So Very good. And I would appreciate if you present these companies or advisor companies who are dealing with this method. Thank you.
František Váni speaking. I have a question regarding security, probably for Mr. Boda. Also, what do you think regarding security assessment for remote working, for business critical solution in bank sector or something?
I can talk about our bank, but the process is very similar. The other banks, there were a lot of work with securing this type of work. Our approach was that we classified the data which is used in the bank, and according to that, we allowed people work with systems which are using this data. For example, if there were very critical data, the access was denied, and we had to solve the problem that somebody had to come to the work and do that work on place. But there were medium critical data. We allowed the access to this data, but we had to solve the security problem. So the VPN connection, the logging of this work, control of this work. So I think this time it was a very good expression for us. And finally, in the bank sector, people see that it is a possible way to work, because before a home office, the type of working by the teleworking in the bank sector was very rare. For example, in our bank, it was allowed just 1 day in a month for an employee.
Yeah, sure. And in dedicated place, also you must inform bank from which point IP address you will work. Sure. Also strictly security rules.
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Also, you must inform bank from which place you will
No, we didn't, or we hadn't, because in our bank is allowed to work this way just only on the bank PCs, notebook. You cannot use your own device.
Oh.
So
Sure.
you can use just the notebooks or the laptops which is configured by the bank specialist. You don't have administrator rights, so you cannot do any changes on this hardware. And the connection to the bank is you cannot connect to the bank through your Wi-Fi system at home. Every employee has a token from Telecom. You can connect to the Telecom internet connection, and this way open a VPN connection to the bank and work on the system which is allowed for you or for special types of employees. This Wi-Fi connection from home is allowed in just rarely, and in cases that the employee has not signal from Telecom in his place of or on from his house, and in this case you have to configure your Wi-Fi system for an exact name done by our IT system. you have to make some changes in your configuration of your Wi-Fi system, and in this case you can work from home. But it is from the whole bank, it is allowed maybe for 10 or 20 employees. That's all.
Understand.
Just I would like to also provide the way we implemented it. It's kind of similar. So, but we allow people to bring your own device. So we have two types of devices. So we have the company-owned device and the bring your own device, and and we distinguish 4 different workspaces. So there's an office workspace, development workspace, business workspace, and production workspace. So all these workspaces have different characteristics in terms of what kind of data you maintain within that environment. So for instance, in the development environment, you can only work with the manufactured data, so artificial data, whereas in the business workspace, it's all customer data and so on and so forth. And the production workspace is actually the backend interfaces where admins can go and do some changes at the backend systems. But nevertheless, when you use company-owned device, you are allowed to be connected remotely. You literally have no restriction, and you work like on premise. And to me, when I heard what you said, that there is you give a token to every employee, then it sounds to me very, very expensive. And personally, I feel like why there is a need for that, and because I cannot imagine the reason for it. Can you elaborate on that? Why this is necessary? Is it the country regulator who requested it, or why?
Yes, we are talking about 2 types of token. Maybe I used not the correct word, because what I mentioned, it was a modem from the telecom provider, and it is used for the internet connection. But yes, we use tokens for the VPN connection. It's something like second factor of authentication. And again, the business operations cannot be done by this way, so from home office. So the branches where the operations are done have to be open, and people have to be there. This type of work, the home office or the telework, it is maybe so. OTP Bank is a small bank in the Slovak market. There are 600 employees. And from these 600 employees is nearly 250 on the headquarters. So we are talking about these people. And we are talking approximately about 200 tokens for the VPN connection. So it is not cheap, but not so expensive that we cannot allow it.
Yeah, because we use the facial recognition. So we have to have at least one biometric credential. Then we have PIN, we have password, and I think there is one more thing. So we have 4 types, and anytime, every time you're connecting, the system gives you a hash of the 2. So you have to provide 1 of or 2 out of 4 credentials. Yeah.
So I understand our approach is that by this token, you have a device, the token, you had to know the password for this token. After that, you had to have a username in your system, which configure the access to the system, so you have know the password for the system. So
no, it's all right. Just
maybe it's complicated, but this type of work in the beginning of the pandemic situation was something new for us, because the banking system, as I mentioned, is very conservative. So this type of work wasn't allowed before, and we started to solve that in the beginning of the pandemic situation.
Okay.
Maybe today we solve it another way, but that time it was the most the fastest way and the most secure way. If we use our devices and the solutions which were done at the time.
Mhm.
So it's the only way to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
But I heard that many banks decided to continue by this work in the future, and they won't need such a big buildings and a lot of offices and something like that. They can spare a lot of money.
Yeah, for instance, we scaled down by 40% the amount of the desks in our institution.
Interesting.
Yes, so they're squeezing everything. There's the hot desk policy, and I don't know how they shall manage in the future in case everyone decides to go to the office, because the work from home will be on the voluntary basis.
So what does it mean that everybody wants to be in office, not at home?
No, if everybody wants to be in the office, then we won't have enough places to seat all the employees.
Yes. Yeah, I see.
And so people will have to be in the canteen, in the cafeteria, and all over the place.
I see. That there should be
Maybe there is a new business concept for that, or a business opportunity, because if all the institutions will, from one day to another, scale down their premises, there could be, some kind of shared or hot desk
co-working places.
Co-working places where, in case you come to your building and there is nothing for you, no place left, you can go there.
Yeah.
And it will be just across the street.
Thank you. So I am glad you made a very useful horizontal discussion among you. So we already started to implement the concept of knowledge sharing in our ecosystem. Okay, so if you don't mind, I would like to thank you again very much for your time and your commitment for the future.